We'll start out with a hearing, review, and action on the preliminary plan and final plat for the Rockwell Ranch Block 3, Phase 1, consisting of 23 lots located at approximately 1060 west, 480 south in the TOD zone. Adam, would you lead us in this one, please?
John,
Yeah.
Commissioner, Mr. Chair, could before we get started, just a request from anyone who is going to participate in this meeting or monitor this meeting, we just ask that you mute unless you have something to say, just so that we can have our discussions.
Sounds
Thank
good.
Thank you, Jeff. So this first item on the agenda tonight, the Rockwell Ranch, it's a preliminary and final plats for Block 3, Phase 1. So this area, we've seen some final plats previously. This is just in addition to those that we've seen, just kind of expanding out on the property. It was annexed in 2015. It received approval of a district framework plan, the Olive Tree District Framework Plan. And then there was a staff level approval for block plan. As part of the lot plan, that's where these subdivision plats come in. And so the ones that we're looking at right now, one of them is a 45 lot townhome phase. And then the other is a 10 unit multifamily, which is on the screen before you. It's straightforward. They are in compliance with their block plan, their district framework plan. This is just the next step in formalizing the division of property into the lots. And then after this, then it will go back to a staff level review for additional reviews. But planning would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions, concerns for planning on this one from the commission? Hearing none, we'll go to engineering. Engineering, do you have any comments or concerns on this project?
I know this project meets all of the improvement and engineering requirements, and we would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. This one does require a public hearing. Do we have any comments on it, Adam, as far as we know, Vindling?
No.
All right, thank you. We'll open the hearing. We'll go ahead and close the hearing if there's nobody submitted things to it. Is the applicant with us?
No, I don't believe so.
All right, then we'll go from there. I guess we're in need of a motion from someone, please, on this one for the Rockwell Ranch Block 3, Phase 1.
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr. Chairman,
move. Oh, go, Rod.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the preliminary plan and recommend approval of the final plat of the Rockwell Ranch Block 3, Phase 1, with the findings and conditions listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications listed in the engineering report.
All right, thank you. We have a motion by Rod. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Jeff.
Jeff is second. All right, thank you. Any other comments on this one? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Ryan?
Oh, I'm trying to unmute. Aye.
All right, thank you. And the chairman votes aye also, so it's unanimous, 6-0. Moving on, hearing, review, and action on the preliminary plan and final plat for the Roderick Ranch Block 5, Phase 1, consisting of 39 lots located in approximately 1060 west, 560 south, and the TOD zone again. Adam, lead us in this one, please.
Again, this is another final plat within that same vicinity. This plat consists of townhome lots. There are no multifamily lots in this phase, just townhomes. It does meet the parameters of the block plan, which was approved, and then the district framework plan, which laid out the basic grid or street network and locations for the various uses. Again, just another final plat in their step towards developing the property.
All right, thank you. Engineering, any concerns on this particular project?
No, they meet all the engineering minimum standards and specifications and minimum improvements, and we would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. This one also requires a hearing. We've got no input from the public on this one either, right, Adam?
Correct.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing then. I guess we're in need of a motion on this one, please, from someone.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, oh, go Christine.
I move that we approve the preliminary plan and recommend approval of the final plat of Rockwell Ranch Block 5 with the findings and condition listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications listed in the engineering report.
All right, thank you. We have a motion for Christine. Do I have a second?
This is Jeff. I'll second.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. That again passes. Moving right along. Hearing, review, and action on the preliminary plan and final plat of Roderick Catalyst subdivision, Phase 2, located in the area of 1600 South, 450 East, in the PI1 Planned Industrial Zone. Adam?
This is, again, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, Phase 2 of the Roderick Catalyst development. There are 3 lots, which are total about 24.5 acres, and then parcel A, which is left for future development, which is about 33 acres. So the 3 lots are bordered by 1600 South to the north, which will be an internal subdivision street, 1700 South to the south, and then Lot 3 is also bordered by 500 East on the east. Phase 1 was approved, I believe, a year or 2 ago. And this is just the second phase in that development, and we'd recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Engineering, any concerns on this project?
No, they meet all of the minimum standard engineering requirements and minimum improvements, and we would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. And we've got no public input on this one either, right, Adam?
Correct, but we do have the applicant on this one if there were any questions for him.
All right. Is the applicant there? Would you like to address your project, please?
This is Ben Wee with Roderick Enterprises. Yeah, I mean, if there's any questions on it, it's kind of straightforward. We're gonna just put the other improvements in required to do the next 3 lots in this subdivision. We're currently under construction on the first building on Lot 1 and should bring that to market by the end of the year.
Moving right along, it sounds like. All right, thank you. All right, we're in need of a motion on this one from someone, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the preliminary plan and recommend approval of the final plat of the Roderick Catalyst subdivision Phase 2 with the findings and conditions listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications listed in the engineering report.
All right,
This is
thank you.
Rod.
Have a motion from Rod. Do I have a second?
Second, Chris.
Chris is a second. All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wheat, for participating and get going on your project. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. Moving on, hearing, review, and action on a commercial site plan for Bishop Storage located at 16 West, 1500 South in the PI1 Planned Industrial Zone. Adam, would you lead us on this one, please?
Yeah, again, as you said, this is along 1500 South. It's on the north side. It's got a planned industrial zone, which now the applicant is requesting a site plan for storage units. When I wrote the staff report last week, we were kind of going back and forth getting the final revised plans. And since my report went out, we did get revised landscaping plans. There are I believe, one or two issues that I believe can be cleaned up before this moves to council, should you as the planning commission make a recommendation of approval. It's just adjusting some lines and making it match where the property lines should be. So I believe it's an easy fix. But, you know, as I said, when I wrote the report, we were still going back and forth on getting those plans. We did get them, but it's just a few minor cleanup items is all.
Yeah, we did get them late, which I'll get on my soapbox. I think it's totally unfair to the staff. It's definitely unfair to the planning commission. And it's also unfair to other applicants when some applicants don't meet the deadlines. I'm gonna have a discussion with the mayor and see if we can't get this nailed down a little bit better, but if Adam feels it's good enough to just make it part of the condition of the motion, we'll go with that, but I'm still gonna have a discussion with the mayor about the late incomes on the deadlines. We have deadlines for a reason. All right, engineering, anything on this one, please?
They have addressed all of the engineering related comments on the plans. They also meet the master plan requirements on 1500 South for roadway improvements, and we would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. This one also requires a hearing. We've got no public comment on this one. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this one. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, they are.
Applicant, would you please address the commission as far as your project is concerned, please? And state your name for the record, please.
This is Matt Bishop. Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Matt Bishop. I would like to just say thanks for getting this in to get reviewed finally. There has been some questionable things on timelines and this and that due to both of our parties. But I do appreciate you guys looking at it.
Well, like I explained earlier, I'm not very happy with it. If I had my way, we'd table it until we had everything exactly right, because the deadline was a long time ago and we're still waiting for information from you folks. It's not fair to the commission to have to do this on a spur of the moment to make a good decision. Any comments? Anybody have any comments or concerns for the applicant?
I believe Mr. Bishop was going to say something, Mr. Chair.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
This is Matt from the fire department. I've been reviewing this plan. There was a drawing submitted, and I believe I spoke with Vendeline earlier on this specific project. It's drawing CS02 regarding the fire department accesses. There's the access on the north end of that lot, and they've modeled the apparatus turning radius right there. And on that turning radius, it appears as though there's curbing overlap, which should not occur. And then it also appears as though there's building contact potential on that corner of the building. Now, that radius also creates problems on the west end and then through the intermediate turn as well. I'm concerned about our apparatus being able to make those turns, and then also having to deal with a dead end should we not be able to make those specific corners.
And your apparatus isn't near as big as the tiller in Pleasant Grove, correct?
No, sir, it's not.
That's a monster truck, that thing, that's for sure.
It's quite large, and it does have steering capable in the rear end, which our apparatus does not.
Right. You know, that tiller is quite the machine. There's no doubt about that. All right, commissioners, what do you feel about this with the fire department brought up?
Well, is it just a matter, and then maybe this is an engineering question, but adjusting the curb and gutter to a mountable curb so that the fire truck can make the turning radius?
Ben, what do you think?
I mean, there's definitely some things that can be modified to make it work. It's just a matter of how the applicant would like to modify it. It was a previous comment that the fire department had addressed and wanted to make sure around the buildings that they had access. So it is doable. It just depends on how they would like to approach addressing it. But there are several options, a couple possible options that would be feasible.
All right, commissioners, what do you want to go with? Where do you want to go with this? Table it, pass it with restrictions? What are we going to do?
So just a couple of questions, Mr. Chair. When I look at this and hear the discussion, I'm inclined to table it just because I'd like to see that things are laid out properly so that there is an appropriate fire coverage. Any delay, especially with this being storage units, it doesn't take much for if the truck can't maneuver appropriately, that puts other storage units at risk. It's very easy for fires to quickly move through a unit complex such as this, in spite of their best efforts in building and building efforts. So I would, me personally, I would lean towards tabling until we can get this situation resolved.
I agree 100%. How's the other commissioners feel?
Yeah, I support the same thing, that it should be tabled until they can clearly show that the safety has been addressed.
Well, it'd be just our luck if we passed it and they had a problem, they'd come back on the city saying that the fire trucks couldn't get in where they needed to be. And we don't want to
Yeah.
go down that road. It's got to be done right for safety for everybody concerned, including the fire.
Hey, commissioners, sorry.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you would like to say something, Mr. Bishop.
Yeah, I'd like, Matt mentioned something about moving, or somebody did, about moving the curb. How far are we talking? Are we talking a foot? I mean, because there's no sense in tabling it over a foot. We can shift things around, you know?
I think it's got to go back to your engineer to make those assessments to ensure that the turning radius is adequate and that the curb and gutter is going to work. So I think it's got to go back to your engineer.
Right. I'm asking what the dimensions are that it needs to be to require.
Well, I'll chime in on that one. As far as that goes, you have a diminishing road right there that is severely restricted down to, it looks like 27 feet 7 inches. And
Okay.
then another contributing factor is we can't make that turn around that east end, period. The road's not wide enough for us to make that turn safely, and clearly showing the radius that exists that we won't make it. So that's pretty much our full penetration to drive through there. And the point that was made earlier about those being storage units, we might have client A, B, C, and D that have totally different ideas of what they're storing in there, and we need to be able to access all of those. So
Okay.
when it comes to that, we need to have the radiuses that are capable of navigation without having to worry about any contact on curbing or anything. Those things cause problems with our apparatus, and they're not cheap to fix. And so
I agree. So what does that radius need to be? How wide do we need to be there?
Well,
That's why
clearly
this-
to the point that there's no contact on the curb or building, we need to be able to clearly make those. And you have the ability to show that with your software. If you can create that and show that we can navigate through that safely, then that's a talking point that I would clearly be willing to discuss. I'm not an engineer. I just know that we have to be able to navigate that safely so that our drivers aren't, or our firefighters aren't put in a bad spot either.
I agree. The problem is I don't think my engineers understand the radius your apparatus needs to turn. So if I could get an answer here while we're at the meeting, so we're not doing this through email, do we need to take a unit off? You know what I mean? Does it need 45 feet? Does it need 27 feet? Does it need, you know?
Are you talking the interior radius? Excuse me.
The one on the north end or the east end? How far do I need between the building and the curb for your apparatus to make the corner?
I can give you what the length of our longest apparatus is, and that's probably
Okay.
going to be the first on scene. It's roughly 45 feet. It looks
Okay.
like the vehicle used in the turning model is 48.5 feet.
Okay.
And so if you can show that turning model is adequate for a vehicle to make that curb, I'm not going to give you a number straight up, because I feel like if I did that, I'd be doing a disservice to everybody.
I agree.
Okay.
The fire department's got the final say. I do not like this going forward with this big of a question mark. I think personally it should be tabled, and we should have the chance for the applicant and the city engineer to work this out and make sure the fire department can get in there, because I trust the firefighters implicitly. If they say it's not going to work, it's not going to work. We've got to make sure it works before we put the firefighters at jeopardy and or the buildings that's involved.
Okay. Can we, on all these issues, Matt, are you going to email these to Chris, or have you already done so? And this is on our part.
I made the comment last week in my review on the 9th that was finished. This was in response to the response that was actually submitted. Give me 1 second. There was a response submitted to the city on September 8th. And I got my review done following that on the 9th. That specifically stated that that was a concern, that the modeling had curbing overlap and a severe potential for building contact. And I never heard anything in return on that. So
Okay.
so that comment has been placed. I'm just
Right.
waiting to hear back.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, how do you feel? How important is this number to make sure the fire department can get in and do their job safely?
And I agree, you've got to be able to have the fire access to get in and through there. And it's one of the things that I know that Matt was wanting, like a specific radius or specific dimension or things like that. I mean, it's one of the things that we as staff, fire department, engineering, planning, we follow what the specifications indicate. And in instances like this, where it's basically, you've got to have a fire truck that can maneuver through there. It's up to the engineer with the applicant to whether it means, reducing one unit on the end or widening it or shifting buildings. I mean, there's several possibilities, but I definitely want to make sure that our fire department is also that they've got the maneuverability that they need to be able to get in and out of there.
Well, I think this is too important just to put it as a condition of approval. I think it should be tabled, and the engineer for the applicant, our engineering department, and the fire department should get together and make sure it works before we pass it.
I think this is a simple thing.
Entertain a motion on this one, please.
But I just want to add, I think it's a simple thing for the applicant's engineer he has the vehicle turning length. The engineer just needs to go back with his templates and just ensure that the radius can be met. I mean, it's really a very simple procedure to verify that turning movement. So,
But it needs to be verified and approved by the fire department before I think we should move it forward.
yeah, right. I agree.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, please, from someone. You know how I feel about it.
This is Ryan. Mr. Chairman, I move that we table the action on the commercial site plan for Bishop Storage pending submission of completed not landscape plans, but site plan.
All right, I have a motion from Ryan. Do I have a second?
This is Jeff, second.
All right, a second from Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none,
They- You can't talk. You can't. They won't listen to you.
The other guy did. So that's weird.
we'll take a roll call vote. Christine?
Aye.
What?
Rod?
Babe, you can't interrupt. They've already said.
I told you to say it before this.
We're getting a lot of overlap in here from somewhere. Ryan?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Ryan?
I answered earlier. Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, who seconded that motion to table?
Jeff
did.
did.
Thank you.
There's motion by Ryan, seconded by Jeff. The chairman votes aye also. The motion is tabled. We'll have to come back with the information. And I would definitely like to see everybody that's important in this get into this. The safety of our firefighters is the ultimate thing. We got to make sure they can do their job, but they've got to do it safely without having to risk their life and limb on this thing. All
Mr.
right.
Commissioner, can I add one more thing to that? If Mr. Bishop's still connected, which I don't know if he is or not, it's a matter of our safety, number one, but we're also trying to protect their assets as well. So I hope he understands that.
Well, I understand that, but I've got a son's a firefighter. And
I agree too. I just hope that we can get a list of everything.
we can rebuild buildings. We can't replace firefighters. That's the end of it.
Right, I agree.
And it sounds like there's these things, as Rod mentioned, there are things that can be done. There's templates available. I agree, trying to get a reasonable template that's a reasonable accommodation so the fire trucks can maneuver is in the best interest of everyone. And I agree that, just trying to work together to get this so that hopefully next time it can come before us and we can move this forward.
That's why I want the experts on each individual area together and talk this over, make sure it works. And like I say, the safety of the firefighters is the ultimate thing. That's what we've got to have. We can rebuild buildings, we can replace contents, but we can't replace firefighters. They're too important. All right, moving on. Thank you, applicant. Moving
Thanks.
on, hearing, review, and action on the amendments to section 17.4.401 of the American Fork City Development Code entitled CC1 Central Commercial Zone. Adam, lead us on this one, please.
So what I've given you, Planning Commission, is just an updated draft. I've tried to incorporate everything that we've discussed in our last 2 times where we've discussed this. If I've missed something, I apologize. Please let me know. But I went through my notes and tried to cross everything off as I added this in. So what you have before you tonight is a draft that if you feel is ready, we can put in ordinance format. I'll work with the city recorder and then we will send this on to the city council. And then we will revise the standards or the CC1 zone, mainly to allow residential uses. And we'll see where that goes. I know the council's been interested in this for a little while. We've had a downtown study that recommends we open up our downtown to residential uses. And so this is what we've put together through the last couple of discussions and times with you as the Planning Commission. So again, if you have anything that I've missed, I apologize, and I'd be happy to put that in. Otherwise, we'll go where you feel we should with this and move forward.
Has the city legal people looked at this yet, Adam, or is that down the road still?
I will send this to legal upon forwarding to city council. So when I work with Terry to get it in ordinance format, we'll send it over to the legal council.
Do we need their approval of it as part of the process?
Not for you, no. You can, we'll look, I mean, we'll need it before council, but for your purposes tonight, we're still okay to move forward if that's where you choose to go.
All right, thank you. Engineering, do you have any concerns on this amendment change?
On our end, a lot of it doesn't impact the infrastructure or anything like that. So we didn't really have any concerns or anything.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't involved.
Yep, thank you.
This also.
But that, Mr. Chairman, but that brings up a good question though. What's the likelihood that as we move forward on this ordinance that we're going to have to upsize existing sewer and water and that type of stuff so that can be served appropriately?
Well, and some of it, depending on which utilities and which areas, I mean, I know that as they run the modeling, they make assumptions on what uses would be there, how much those uses would be. And I don't know, in some instances, it's a little difficult to know for sure, just it depends on what they actually come in with their development layout. Every single development that would come in, it would be reviewed and analyzed to make sure that there is sufficient capacity in the infrastructure to be able to handle it. And if there are any concerns, then we flag it through the modeling and identify what those, what remediation efforts need to be put in place to accommodate that.
All right, thank you. This also requires a hearing. I guess we've got no public comment on this one either, right, Vendeline?
Right.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at that point then. The city is the applicant, so I guess we've heard from the city. I will entertain a motion on this amendment, please, from someone.
I just had a question about one of the comments I made last time, and I'm just curious what planning and the commission feel about, I'm not sure, it's further down, Vendeline, if you could scroll down. It's the one about materials, different products, like a limit of at least 4 products on the face of the buildings. There it is. Yep. And I'm curious, with planning and with the commission, do you feel that that's appropriate, or do you feel that that's kind of a hardship? Requiring that of developers? Do you like that idea? I was the one that suggested it, but I'm just curious if everyone is on board with that, or if it's not necessary.
Well, I think it's kind of a slippery slope. We need to do it one-on-one, but we don't want to get too much into design standards because that, I think, limits the contractor. But by the same token, we don't want a bunch of just office or a bunch of warehouse-looking buildings sitting there either. What does the other commissioners think?
I think it's fine. Personally, I think it's actually gives them some direction and, get some material out there that can be reviewed and give some variety.
I think that's the key, is it needs to be reviewed and approved, like say on an individual basis from project to project, so that we still have some input, but we don't monitor exactly what they can or cannot do.
Well, things need to be, if whatever we do isn't aesthetically pleasing, then that decreases the livability within that downtown area. So I think giving a little bit of guidance is okay.
Okay.
That makes sense. I agree with that, Jeff. Good idea. Anybody else want to comment on it?
I'd be curious to see what, this is Ryan, I'd be curious to see what, like if we have visual examples of something like that we could, I don't know if we want to necessarily include it in the code, but, or in the, what we're approving here, but just the idea that,
I think it's up to them to give us those examples, because as years go by, styles and different materials change in popularity. And so personally, I like keeping that open so they can come to us, and then it comes to you as a planning commission to look at that and basically get your feedback. And if it's not you, it could be a different planning commission. But that's,
Right.
that's just my own personal feeling. It kind of leaves that door open as styles change through the years.
Yeah, I
You're not
apologize.
stuck on one.
That's
Yeah.
great input. I should have clarified. I meant to answer Christine's question about, or like what is it we're trying to make that look like versus not. And I apologize. I mean specifically for today. I don't know that we should be including it in the actual code, because I agree with you that as styles and trends change, those are going to need to be amended. And so having it come to us, I think, is the right thing. I just mean that on the, in order to really understand what is it we're saying here currently.
I think a good example, and I don't know that it's easy to pull up right now, but at our last meeting, there was one of the apartment complexes that you recommended approval of. Their rendering showed a number of, I guess you could say, materials on the facade of the buildings or building materials. And while that zone has a lower number of a requirement, this, I think, has just one addition in addition to that. But through their renderings that they showed us, we could see, okay, yeah, you are meeting this. And I believe it was commented even here at the Planning Commission meeting that they appreciated that and that visual that they saw.
That's awesome. That's great.
I also like that you gave kind of a general guideline, Adam, of considering the historical styles and precedent that's already there.
Yeah, you look at what's downtown, and the bank's done an amazing job at preserving that building. The church has done a great job with preserving the tabernacle. So you have those types of historical elements, if you will, to look at. And I realize that things are modernized, but there are ways to kind of tie in those elements even with a modern look. And I believe you've got those two right downtown that are great to pull from.
Totally agree.
I agree also. Any other comments or concerns before we go for a motion?
I like all of it. I think you did a great job tying in everything we talked about and making it all make sense, and it looks great.
And we'll see where it goes when we start getting developments. We may see areas we need to tweak, and we'll do that as we need to.
Like I've always said, Christine, we got the best staff in the state. They take care of us, that's for sure.
Yep, they're great.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on this section 17.4 from someone, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the amendments to section 17.4.4001 of the Development Code.
All right, thank you. I have a motion from Christine. Do I have a second?
Second, Chris.
Chris, second. All right, thank you. Any further discussion before it goes to city council? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine,
Aye.
Rod,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. It passes 6-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to other business. Adam, any other business?
You may have noticed, well, you obviously you did notice tonight, we have the developers as part of the meetings now. That's direction given through the mayor and city council. We're still trying to figure out how to handle items such as public hearings. For the time being, we're still taking the comment through email. And I don't know that as of now, it's not been advised to open that up to everyone. But we are allowing the applicants as part of the meeting. We're hoping that that can help answer questions that both you and the city council may have. And so you saw that tonight. They were part of the meeting, and that will continue in the future.
So Adam, working for the department for UDOT, we've had several online public meetings. And so it is, I think that just especially seeing how we're using Zoom, whoever is running Zoom has control. I think what we need to do is just identify or lay down with each meeting the ground rules of how the meeting is going to work. So if someone wants to raise a hand, there's a time for that. If someone wants to make a comment, there's a time for that. So it really is, it comes down to the level of back end administration of Zoom that actually allows that. We've been able to do it successfully. I mean, it's taken some work and getting and learning curve, but we've been able to do that successfully on several projects, especially with Zoom, in allowing the public to comment during the meeting as well as applicants. And you just have to facilitate it a little bit differently, but you definitely have to set up the ground rules on how that meeting is going to be operating at the beginning of the meeting. And then you may have to remind people, such as in this case with the applicant regarding the storage units. As an administrator, you should have the ability to mute that person, because there were times where their internal conversations were interrupting what we were when we were talking. So that's something that, but that's more of a back end function of the platform that just needs to be worked through.
Yeah, and we follow the city council and legal counsel's lead on that. And so as we make changes, we'll bring those to you and then work with John to set those rules, because I do imagine we will have the ability, or we will be allowing more public comment as time moves on. But that's great. I've been involved in some of those meetings where you do have that raise hand function, and it seems to work pretty well.
Yep.
I think on Zoom, it's a little tricky to know like when it can be your turn to talk, maybe more so than if we were in person. And so as developers come to our meetings, I hope that we can just be kind of extra careful to make sure they have the time to say everything they want to. I felt like this developer would have wanted to say something else, but they thought their turn was done. And I just want to make sure that given the virtual setting that they get the chance to say what they want to.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think we've been pretty good so far since we went to this electronic way of doing it. And according from what I'm hearing from the city administration, the city council, we're probably going to be doing it this way, probably till the end of this year at least. So we can always improve it, make it more easier for everybody to be involved. And I know we've had comments from quite a few of the citizens, especially when it comes to the Northampton House, they feel like they're kind of being left out when we don't have them right in person. But until we get guidance from the city leaders, we're going to keep going the same way. So we just have to work these glitches out and just keep working at it. It's an ongoing situation until we get rid of the virus and we get back to normal, whatever that may be.
But that's why I mentioned what I did, is that it's done. Everybody else is able to do that successfully. It's always going to be glitchy. There's always going to be, challenges, but those are some of the things that that legal counsel and our city administrators or city administration can look at and say, okay, these other entities are able to do it. How are they doing it? What do we need to do? Because we went through all the legal things as well to make sure that this could be done appropriately and meet state code. So if we can do it, anybody can do it.
And it's a matter to other cities here in the county. I know there's a Springville for one, and a couple others that went back to live meetings. So who knows when it'll change? And it's just each city does their own way of doing it. But I think we're doing pretty good so far, and we'll just keep improving it until we can go back to live meetings. Anything else?
Just a quick comment. So I actually did mute the developer when it got too noisy in the meeting. But there are lots of things Zoom can do, but we also have resource constraints. I can't do everything simultaneously. So at City Council, for example, we are actually running the meeting with 2 people. So that's also a consideration in this. With the developers, this time, I copied a few of you on the email that went out to the developers. I had asked them, to put their name in their screen name and the agenda item number. And without that, you don't know who is who really in the end, oftentimes. And there are lots of moving parts, and it's I think Jeff is right in the respect that one has to really be a little more bold with, who's going to be allowed to speak when, for how long, because it's not as natural in this setting as in a real live meeting where there are other cues where people can interpret when can they talk and when should they maybe not talk. Yep. And at the same time, muting someone, you wonder at what point you might be violating their rights. In a real world setting, you have a policeman to do that, but of course we don't have that here.
Well, but that's you bring up a really good point, Bendeline, in that trying to run these meetings with one person is very difficult. There needs to be discussion amongst city administration to say, okay, if we're going to have any of these, as we move forward with these online meetings, we need to. And I know it comes down to budget and such, but we need to allocate the appropriate resources so we can run these properly. Because that's what we had to do. Because it puts a big burden on one person to try to do all of that on the back end.
It's a learning curve, and we're right in the middle of it. So we'll just have to keep trying to improve each time we have a meeting. And just for the record, our next meeting is October the 7th. We've got an extra week in here. I was reminded earlier today. So
I do have one other question, if I may. With this storage unit, when do we get to a point of saturation?
Of storage units, you mean?
Yes.
According to operators, the need is so great, but I understand what you're saying as well, Jeff. They seem to be going up everywhere.
Well, that's how I feel about
it. Not so much in American Fork, but I see them everywhere that I go.
Well, that's how I am with office warehouses. They seem to go up everywhere overnight. And yet you ask the developers, they've always got clients. So I guess economics runs the almighty dollar talks more than you realize. Anything else on other business from anybody? If not, we'll move on to site plan committee report. Vendeline, what's coming down?
As you mentioned, we have an additional week, so we don't have an agenda yet. Thus far, there's only one project that looks like it will be ready on time for the agenda to go out next week. And that's an additional plat on the Tim Hollow development north of the temple. So, but there may be other developments that will be ready by the time the agenda needs to be sent out.
Where's Tim Hollow?
It's the development that's north of the temple. There's one that's on the western side that's by Patterson Homes. Tim Hollow is the other one that's Cadence Homes, I believe.
Oh, right.
So it's really the eastern city boundary up there.
Right.
And with this extra week, hopefully the Bishop storage thing will come in with everything completed and approved by the fire department. So that will probably be on the next agenda also, right, Vendeline, if they meet the deadlines and get the information to you folks.
Yes, yeah, if they get everything to us, then it will for sure be on the agenda.
Let's hope they make it then.
Yeah.
All right. Review and action on the minutes of September 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission regular session. Someone like to make a motion on the minutes, please?
Move to approve, Chris?
So you're making the motion on the minutes, Chris?
Yes.
All right,
Move
thank
to
you.
approve the minutes of the September 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. I have a motion from Chris. Do I have a second on the minutes?
Second.
Second from Christine. All right, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Christine? Everybody, let me do a roll call vote just to make sure. Christine?
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Ryan?
Abstain. I had technical difficulties on that one.
Okay. Chairman votes aye also, passes with 5 ayes and 1 abstention. We're down to the big one. Need a motion on adjournment, please.
Before we adjourn, I just want to,
Okay.
I'm going to move to adjourn, but I just wanted to give a thanks to engineering for the second round of repair at that creek overpass structure at there by in Mitchell Hollow.
Putting anything in there that would help anybody.
Yep, glad it's noticed and it's definitely an improvement.
So thank you for doing that. I do appreciate
Yep, you bet.
Question becomes, do you get in trouble?
So then with that, I move to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Anybody, all those in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks, for another eventful Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Thanks
Planning.
You guys.
for joining, everybody.
Take care.
All right.
Good night.
Night, thanks.